Eli Mercer had always lived by routine. Wake up before dawn. Train harder than anyone else. Teach self-defense to people who barely took it seriously. Eat clean, stay focused, and never get too comfortable. For Eli, life had always been a preparation, he just never knew what for. That morning started like any other in his small town on the outskirts of the city. The birds chirped outside his modest apartment, his punching bag swayed slightly from his early morning routine, and his old black coffee machine rattled as it brewed his favorite bitter blend. But at exactly 6:13 a.m., the emergency broadcast system interrupted the silence. This is not a drill. Please stay indoors. Shelter in place. Do not attempt to leave the premises until further notice. Eli's fists stopped midair. He turned to the small TV in the corner, where red banners screamed breaking news. A shaky live feed showed a hospital parking lot in chaos, people running, screaming, and something else. Figures stumbling through the crowd. One tackled a nurse, biting into her neck as others screamed in disbelief. Eli stared. Not at the chaos, but at the speed of the infection. One bite, and seconds later, the woman was convulsing. He muted the TV and grabbed his go-bag, a backpack he'd kept ready for years, filled with tactical gear, first aid, and non-perishables. He'd always believed something big was coming. He just didn't think it would be this. His phone buzzed violently. Unknown number. He answered anyway. Mercer? The voice was sharp, military. You're needed. Now. He didn't ask questions. Only one group called him like that, his old training unit, a private survival task force known as Black Ground. Disbanded 3 years ago, but clearly not forgotten. The voice continued, we have a breach near Sector 4. They're not human anymore. They're turning. You're close. Secure the evac point. Survivors are incoming. The call cut. Eli grabbed his motorcycle keys, slipped a pistol into his waistband, and locked the apartment behind him. 10 minutes later, Eli stood on the rooftop of an abandoned shopping complex, looking down at a parking lot surrounded by chain-link fences. A city bus had crashed near the main entrance, its windshield cracked like a spiderweb. People were gathering, some bloodied, some crying, all panicked. They were the survivors the voice had mentioned. From the shadows beyond the fence, more figures emerged, shambling, twitching, letting out low growls that didn't sound like anything human. Eli didn't wait. He descended the fire escape and landed on solid concrete, sprinting toward the group. Get inside the fence, he shouted. A few looked up, startled. One man argued, who are you? Someone who can keep you alive. That was enough. Just as the last teenagers slipped inside the gate, the creatures charged. They were faster than they looked, too fast. Eli slammed the gate shut, locking it with a steel rod and a fire extinguisher wedged between the handles. The fence rattled as the infected slammed against it. The survivors huddled together, eyes wide. One woman sobbed, what are they? Eli looked around. No weapons. Barely any supplies. A frightened group of civilians, already breaking. He exhaled. I don't know what they are, but I know how to fight them. A teenage boy with a bloodied shirt stepped forward. Are you military? Not exactly, Eli replied. But I was trained for situations like this. He looked around at their pale faces, trembling hands, and tear-stained cheeks. These people weren't soldiers. They were office workers, teachers, kids. And now, they were his responsibility. As the sky darkened and screams echoed in the distance, Eli realized one thing. He hadn't chosen to lead. But if anyone in that group was going to survive the coming storm, it would be because he made sure they did. And in that moment, Eli Mercer, the man trained to survive, became the man forced to lead. Would you like me to continue with part 2? The cold night air pressed down on the survivors like a suffocating blanket. Eli paced quietly around the fence perimeter, eyes scanning for any weakness, any opening the infected might exploit. The creatures had scattered for now, but the silence felt temporary, unnatural. Like the calm before a storm. Inside the fence, fear had grown into tension. The group huddled near the bus, whispering among themselves. Eli knelt beside an unconscious woman who had collapsed from exhaustion earlier. He'd done what he could, cleaned her wounds, bandaged her arm, but without proper medical supplies, it wasn't enough. Her skin was pale. She had a fever. He didn't like it. "Is she bitten?" the teenager from before asked. His name was Noah, curious, sharp, always watching. "I didn't see a bite," Eli replied. "But she's weak. We'll keep an eye on her." She was next to a guy who turned, Noah added. "Right before you got here." Eli looked at the woman again. Time was the enemy now. "I'll handle it if it comes to that," he said. He didn't like saying it. But lying to the group wouldn't help anyone. Later, under the flickering parking lot lights powered by backup batteries, Eli gathered the survivors. "Listen up," he began. "We don't know how many of those things are out there. But they're not slow, and they're not stupid. We stay together, we stay quiet, and we move smart." "Where are we going?" someone asked. Eli pointed west. "There's a National Guard armory 5 miles from here. If we can get there, we'll have weapons, shelter, and maybe more answers." "What if it's already overrun?" a woman said, arms crossed. "Then we find another way. But sitting here will get us all killed." Silence. Then a voice from the back. "Why should we trust you?" It was a man in his 30s, clean shirt, but blood on his shoes. Eli had seen his type before, natural skeptic, likely trying to take control if things went sideways. "You don't have to trust me," Eli said, voice calm. "But I'm not asking for votes. If someone's got a better plan, I'm listening." No one spoke. "Didn't think so." As the group prepared to move, Eli handed out flashlights from the emergency kit on the crashed bus. He rigged a metal pole into a makeshift weapon, gave Noah a fire axe, and instructed the others to grab whatever could be used to defend themselves: pipes, wrenches, chair legs. They left through the east gate, one by one, under cover of darkness. Eli led in front, Noah at the rear. For the first mile, the streets were empty. Just abandoned cars and flickering traffic lights swaying in the wind. Then came the scream. It was sharp, sudden, and close. Eli turned just in time to see a blur sprint toward them, an infected. He shoved the nearest survivor aside and slammed the creature with the metal pole, sending it crashing into a parked van. But another came. Then 2 more. "Form up!" Eli shouted. The group pressed together, terrified but ready. Noah swung the axe and missed. Eli grabbed the infected by the collar and slammed it into the asphalt. For a few moments, chaos reigned. But then, it was over. The creatures were down. Everyone was breathing hard. One woman sobbed. Another vomited. "We need to keep moving," Eli said, wiping blood from his hands. "Noise draws more." They started again, but something shifted. The group moved differently now. Not just scared, but watching each other. Second-guessing every cough. Every stumble. Eli knew what that meant. Paranoia was setting in. He couldn't blame them. The infected could be anyone. Turn at any time. And worse, someone might hide a bite. He would have to stay ahead of the fear. Keep them alive, yes, but also keep them together. And deep down, he knew something else. This was only the beginning. By sunrise, the group had made it halfway to the armory. They took shelter in an abandoned auto garage, its roll-up doors rusted shut, the windows smashed, and blood dried in handprints across the walls. Still, it was shelter. And for now, that was enough. Eli posted Noah at the door with a flashlight and a crowbar. "Don't open for anyone unless I say so." Noah nodded. He was quieter than usual, eyes constantly scanning. Eli could tell, the kid had seen things last night that changed him. Inside, the survivors huddled around a small camp stove someone had found. A faint heat warmed their hands but not their spirits. They were tired. Hungry. On edge. Eli moved between them like a shadow, checking wounds, noting behavior. He didn't like what he saw. Too quiet. Too many glances at the woman who had collapsed the night before. Harper, her name was. She was still feverish, now tied to a dolly cart with ropes someone had found. She hadn't woken up. He noticed something worse: separation. People whispering in pairs, staring at others like threats. Fear had become a virus of its own. Then came the accusation. She's hiding a bite. It was the same man from earlier, the doubter. Greg. Eli stood still. Who? Greg pointed at a boy no older than 17. Nervous, skinny, wearing a hoodie too big for his frame. Him. I saw him cover his arm last night. He's sweating. Look at him. The boy backed away, hands raised. I'm not bitten. Greg moved forward. Then show us your arm. Back off, Eli snapped. I'm trying to protect us. No, you're trying to take control through fear, Eli replied coldly. There's a difference. Everyone turned to Eli. Waiting. He stepped toward the boy. Let me see. The boy trembled as he pulled back his sleeve. A large bruise was there, ugly, purple, but not a bite. Eli nodded. He's not infected. Greg threw his hands up. So we wait until someone is? Until it's too late? We stay alert, Eli said. But we don't turn on each other. That's exactly how we lose. Greg didn't reply. But the look he gave Eli was dangerous. Hours passed. The wind howled through the cracked garage windows. Eli sat near Harper, watching her shallow breaths. Her fever hadn't broken. Noah approached, crouching beside him. What if she turns? Eli didn't answer. I mean, Noah whispered, do you think she already knows? Like, right before it happens? I don't know, Eli admitted. But if she does, I hope she tells me. That night, as the group drifted into an uneasy sleep, Eli stayed awake. He thought about the virus, how quickly it spread, how fast it turned friends into monsters. But even worse, he thought about the choices he'd have to make if someone he cared about became a threat. His hand hovered over the pistol at his side. Then, movement. He stood up instantly. From across the room, he saw Greg leaning over Harper. His knife out. Inches from her neck. Hey! Eli barked. Greg froze. She's going to turn, he yelled. I'm doing what you're too afraid to do. Step away. Now. But Greg didn't. He moved to press the knife down. Eli didn't hesitate. He crossed the room in a flash, knocked Greg back with a single blow, and wrenched the knife from his hand. Greg hit the floor, blood on his lip. You don't make that decision, Eli growled. She's going to get us killed. Then I'll make the call. When it's time. But if you try something like that again, you'll be the one we don't wake up. Greg didn't move. Just glared. The others looked shaken. But Eli's message was clear. He wasn't just their leader now. He was their judge. And when the line between humanity and horror blurred, he'd be the one to decide who crossed it. Morning brought a biting wind and an eerie stillness. Eli stared down the road that led to the National Guard Armory, its high fences barely visible through the trees a mile away. His fingers twitched on the grip of his pistol. This could be their salvation, or their grave. The group was quieter now. Greg sat alone, a swollen bruise beneath one eye. He hadn't spoken since the confrontation with Harper. Eli had warned him once. There wouldn't be a second time. Harper, still unconscious, was loaded onto a makeshift stretcher and strapped between two carts. Her fever had worsened, and they were running out of time. As they moved toward the armory, every sound made someone jump, a bird flapping from a tree, leaves crunching underfoot, the distant squeal of tires. Eli walked point, eyes sharp, heart steady. Then he saw it. Barbed wire. Watchtower. Concrete walls. The armory loomed like a sleeping beast in the fog. It looked intact. No one dead. No gunfire. Too quiet. They approached the gates, thick steel, chained and locked. A keypad blinked red beside it. Military grade, Noah murmured. You know how to crack it? I know how to bypass it, Eli said. He pulled out a utility tool from his belt, knelt, and began prying open the keypad casing. Wires sparked. He worked fast, twisting connections, listening for the faintest clicks. But something felt wrong. The air changed. Then a low moan rose behind them. Eli turned, fast. A group of infected shambled through the trees. 10. 15. More. We've got company. Noah shouted. Form a circle. Eli ordered. Keep them off me. The survivors scrambled, makeshift weapons raised. The infected charged, mouths open, arms clawing. Eli's hands worked faster. Sweat poured into his eyes. Click. Green light. The gate unlocked. Inside, he roared. The group surged forward as the infected closed in. Two of them tripped, one screaming as hands grabbed his ankle. Noah swung the fire axe, saving him by inches. Greg pushed a woman aside to get in first. Eli noticed. But he had no time to deal with it. He was the last to enter, dragging the cart with Harper through the gate. As soon as they were in, he slammed the metal shut and relocked it with the interior chain. The infected clawed at the fence, snarling. Inside, the armory was dark, abandoned. But not empty. They moved through silent halls, weapons ready. Dust floated in the shafts of sunlight through cracked windows. Empty bunks. Scattered gear. Dried bloodstains. A half-eaten sandwich on a metal tray. Something had happened here. They reached the main weapons vault. The door was sealed, but a guard's ID card hung from a skeleton in uniform near the wall. Eli took it without hesitation. Inside the vault were rifles, ammo, tactical gear, everything they needed. But no sign of anyone alive. No bodies either. Eli knew that meant one of two things: either they'd evacuated, or something worse had driven them out. They settled into a supply room with only one door and two narrow windows. Safe. For now. Harper moaned in her sleep. She's burning up, Noah said. We need medicine. There's a med bay down the hall, Eli replied. I'll go. Alone. You sure? Noah asked. If something's waiting down there, better it finds me than all of us. Eli moved through the corridor slowly. The hum of emergency lights echoed above. Every corner he passed felt like a trap. Every door, an invitation to death. He found the med bay intact. Bottles scattered, drawers open, blood smeared on the cabinets. But it hadn't been looted. He filled his bag with antibiotics, painkillers, fever reducers. Then he heard it. A shuffle. A breath. Not undead. Footsteps. He raised his weapon. A voice whispered, "Don't shoot." From the shadows stepped a man in a uniform. Dirty. Armed. Eyes wary. Who are you? Eli demanded. Lieutenant Marcus Hayes, the man said. I stayed behind. Didn't expect to see anyone still alive. Eli lowered his gun, just a little. You alone? He asked. Hayes nodded. For now. Eli didn't know if he could trust him. But if the armory had secrets, this soldier might be the key to all of them. Eli studied the soldier in the dim light of the med bay. Lieutenant Marcus Hayes looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. Stubble covered his chin, his uniform was torn, and blood, some fresh, some old, dried on his sleeves. You're really alone in here? Eli asked, still gripping his pistol. Hayes nodded slowly. I've been locking down rooms, clearing corridors. Everyone else either ran, got infected, or disappeared. Eli didn't lower the weapon. And you just stayed behind? I was ordered to, Hayes said, voice steady but tired. Command thought the infection would burn out. They were wrong. When evac failed, I was left to guard the vault and classified gear. Only problem, what I'm guarding is more dangerous than the monsters outside. Eli's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Hayes hesitated, then said, there's something you need to see. Back at the supply room, the survivors jumped when Eli returned, with Hayes behind him. Greg immediately stood. Who the hell is this? A soldier, Eli said, flatly. And he might have answers. You trust him? I don't trust anyone. But I'll hear him out. Hayes gave a grim nod. You're not safe here. Not really. This armory housed more than weapons. It was part of an experimental defense program, something called Phase 5. A countervirus. A backup plan. Backup? Noah asked. They tried to develop something that could reverse the infection. Or at least stop it from spreading. Eli stepped forward. Does it work? Hayes didn't answer immediately. It did, in animals. But on humans? One test subject. He survived the virus, but it changed him. Greg scoffed. So we've got another kind of freak to worry about? Hayes turned to Eli. The subject escaped containment. Killed 2 men. He's still in here, somewhere. A heavy silence dropped over the room like a guillotine. Harper groaned again. Her fever was climbing. Take me to it, Eli said. If there's anything in that lab that can help her, I want it. Hayes hesitated. You sure? Once we go into that section, we might not come back. I've made harder choices. Eli, Hayes, and Noah moved through the sealed corridor that led to the research wing. Unlike the rest of the armory, this area still had backup power. Emergency lights blinked red. Warning signs lined the walls. Biohazard. Do not enter without clearance. Hayes used his card to unlock the doors. They hissed open. Inside, glass chambers stood cracked and empty. Monitors displayed vitals that hadn't changed in weeks. Dried blood stained the walls, handprints, drag marks, broken equipment. Noah flinched. This isn't a lab. It's a cage. Hayes moved to a wall safe and keyed in a code. Inside were 2 vials, one glowing faint blue, the other dark red. This is all that's left of Phase 5. One's a suppressant, it slows infection. The other is the experimental dose. The one the subject survived. Eli took the blue vial. This might buy Harper time. Then they heard it. Footsteps. Not shuffling like a zombie. Heavy. Fast. Deliberate. Hayes' face paled. He's here. A snarl echoed through the hallway. The figure stepped into view. He was once human, but now something else. Veins bulged unnaturally, black and twisted. Eyes wild and glowing faintly. Strength radiated off him like heat. The escape test subject. He looked at them and charged. Eli pushed Hayes and Noah back. Run. The thing lunged at Eli, slamming him into the wall. His ribs cracked. But he jabbed his knife upward, cutting deep into the creature's side. It howled, but didn't slow. Eli fired twice point blank into its shoulder. It staggered. But not enough. Noah turned back and threw a metal cart between them, giving Eli just enough time to break free. They bolted out of the lab, sealing the doors behind them. Back in the supply room, Eli collapsed beside Harper, pulled the cap off the blue vial, and injected it into her arm. No one spoke. They listened to the heavy pounding as the thing threw itself against the locked door at the far end of the armory. Whatever the government had made to stop the undead, it had made something far worse. And now, it wanted out. The pounding echoed through the steel halls like thunder. Each blow against the reinforced lab door sent vibrations through the floor. It wasn't just noise, it was a warning. Time was running out. Eli stood near Harper, whose fever had dropped slightly since the injection. Her skin was still pale, but her breathing had steadied. That blue vial, the suppressant, was doing something. Buying them time. But if the creature got out, time wouldn't matter. Noah checked the security monitors Hayes had activated. The mutated test subject, once human, now something primal and supercharged, was slamming its body against the thick door repeatedly. "We need to leave," Greg said. "Now." "While that thing's still locked up." "And go where?" Eli snapped. "There's hundreds of infected out there and no better shelter than this." "Then what?" Greg demanded. "Wait for that freak to bust through and rip us apart?" "We fight smart," Eli said. "We plan. Reinforce the fallback room. Narrow its access. If that thing breaks through, we control where it goes." Hayes spoke up, calm but grim. "He won't stop. You don't understand, he's stronger, faster, and most dangerous of all, he remembers. He thinks. Tracks waits. Then we beat him like a soldier," Eli said. "We use everything this armory's got, and we don't panic." But even as he spoke, the pounding grew louder, faster. Over the next hour, Eli, Noah, and Hayes led the others in fortifying the interior rooms. They welded steel lockers across weak doorways, stacked crates against corners, laid out escape routes. Tripwires with flashbangs were set near the corridors. Every possible choke point became a trap. Greg sulked but helped. Eli noticed he always looked for excuses to stay away from Harper, from the injured, from anything risky. Coward. Eli moved to the weapons vault and unlocked the case-labeled prototype defense kit. Inside were tools too advanced for civilian hands: EMP darts, shock traps, concussion mines. This lab, Hayes muttered, was preparing for a different kind of war. Eli loaded a launcher with shock darts. "We're in it now." The silence didn't last long. Boom. A crash shook the whole structure. Boom. Dust rained from the ceiling. Lights flickered. Then, silence. Too quiet. Eli motioned everyone back. The group huddled in the reinforced fallback room, two narrow exits covered with mounted weapons and improvised explosives. Noah stood with a scoped rifle. "What do you think he's doing?" "Hunting," Eli replied. "He knows we're ready. So he's waiting." A low growl echoed through the hall. Then, suddenly, screams. Not from the infected. From them. They'd left one watchman near the entrance, a teen named Jason. His scream cut off too fast. The mutant had found its way in. Then came the sound of dragging metal. The creature didn't run this time. It moved slow. Purposeful. And when it turned the corner, everyone felt it. Massive. Twisted. Eyes still glowing. Hands soaked in fresh blood. Eli raised his launcher. Click. The dart struck its shoulder, electricity arced through its body. It staggered. But then it straightened, roaring, smoke rising from its skin. Again. Hayes shouted. 2 more darts hit. It dropped to one knee. That's when Eli gave the signal. Noah pulled the tripwire. Bang! A flashbang exploded, disorienting the creature. Eli rushed forward with a reinforced riot shield and slammed into the mutant, driving it back into the narrow corridor. Hayes and Noah opened fire with shock rounds. It howled, clawing at the walls, the floor, anything, but the trap was working. For now. Greg panicked. "I'm not dying here," he screamed, grabbing Harper's stretcher and trying to push her toward the rear exit. Eli turned just in time. "Don't you touch her." Greg raised his weapon. Noah fired first. The bullet struck the wall just beside Greg's head. "Try that again," Noah warned, "and the next one won't miss." Greg backed off, trembling. "Anyone else want to play hero?" Eli growled. Silence. The creature finally retreated, dragging itself into the shadows of the corridor, leaving streaks of dark blood behind. But it wasn't dead. Only regrouping. Harper stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Eli," she whispered. He dropped to her side, shocked and relieved. "I'm here." She coughed weakly. "You need to finish it." Eli looked down the dark corridor, then back at her. "I will. Because if they didn't kill that thing, it would come back stronger. And next time, it wouldn't come alone." The air was thick with silence and ash. Even after the mutant retreated, no one relaxed. Every creak of the metal walls made hearts pound. Every footstep echoed like a countdown. Eli stared at the blood trail leading into darkness. The monster had bled, but not enough. Harper was stable for now. The suppressant kept her fever from climbing again. But Eli knew the real problem wasn't inside her, it was still out there. "We don't get a second chance," he muttered to Hayes. "If it comes back, this place falls." Hayes nodded. "Then we hunt it." Greg protested the plan, "Of course. This is suicide. You want to go after that thing?" "I want to finish it while we still have a chance," Eli snapped. "That thing is smart. It won't rush in again. Next time, it'll wait for us to make a mistake." Noah stepped beside Eli. "I'm in." Hayes checked his modified assault rifle. "Me too." Greg scoffed. "You're all insane." Eli ignored him. He looked at Harper one last time. "Keep her safe," he told the medic, then vanished into the dark corridor with his team. They followed the blood trail through twisting hallways, past broken pipes and flickering lights. The facility groaned with age. Dust floated through the air like smoke. Hayes held a tracker that pulsed faintly whenever it picked up the mutated man's biosignature. The readings jumped as they approached the deep containment wing, the most restricted section of the bunker. The lab's emergency sign glowed faintly above a rusted door. "Sector Black, do not enter under any circumstance." "Looks like the right place," Noah muttered. Hayes hacked the panel. The door slid open with a loud groan. They stepped inside, and instantly felt it. The temperature dropped. The air smelled like chemicals and rot. Rows of broken containment pods lined the walls, some still dripping with fluid. Scratch marks gouged into the walls. One had a massive dent, as if something had slammed against it over and over. At the far end stood a large chamber, lit only by emergency lights. Eli moved first. The sound came from above. Crack! The monster dropped from the ceiling, landing directly on Hayes. They rolled across the floor, the soldier yelling as claws slashed at his vest. Eli didn't hesitate, he fired twice into the creature's back. Noah hit it with a flashbang. The mutant staggered, but then launched itself toward Eli, moving faster than anything its size should. It slammed him into the wall, denting metal. Eli gasped for air, trying to keep the creature's claws away from his throat. "Now," he shouted. Noah triggered the final trap, a magnetic pulse device stolen from the prototype vault. It detonated with a sharp whomp, and the creature seized up, veins glowing, limbs twitching violently. Hayes, bleeding but alive, threw Eli a reinforced syringe. "The red vial," he croaked. "The reversal." Eli looked at the syringe. "You think it'll kill him?" "I think it's our only shot." Eli didn't hesitate. He stabbed it into the creature's neck. The monster froze. For a second, nothing happened. Then it roared in agony, veins bulging, black blood pouring from its mouth as it thrashed and screamed. Eli and Noah dragged Hayes away as the monster convulsed and finally collapsed, still, silent, twitching no more. Dead. For good. Back at the fallback room, Harper opened her eyes fully for the first time. "What happened?" "It's over," Eli said, exhausted. "We got it." Greg said nothing. He just sat in a corner, staring at the wall. Hayes slumped into a chair, hands shaking. "You know what's strange," he said. "There were more test files. Phase 5 wasn't just one subject. It was a series. You mean, there could be more? Noah asked. Hayes nodded grimly. Some of those pods were empty before we ever came in here. Eli looked at Harper, then out the sealed window. The world was changing. One monster was dead. But the real fight might just be starting. Ready for the final chapter, Part 8? Morning came, but sunlight never touched the lab's underground corridors. Only flickering lights and the hum of machinery reminded them the world still functioned at all. The mutant was dead. Its broken body had been incinerated in the containment furnace. Eli made sure of that. He watched it burn until nothing was left but ash and silence. But even as the smoke cleared, a new weight settled over his shoulders. This wasn't the end. It was a warning. Harper sat upright now, pale but conscious, sipping water as Eli briefed her. The suppressant is holding, she said softly, voice hoarse. I can feel it working, slowing whatever's inside me. But it's not a cure? Noah asked. She shook her head. No. Just a leash. And we don't know how long it'll hold. Hayes leaned against the wall, arm in a sling from the fight. There were more subjects, he reminded everyone. Phase 5 wasn't a single experiment. It was a program. Multiple injections. Some were meant to control the mutation. And others? Eli asked. Hayes's face darkened. To accelerate it. Eli's jaw tightened. One monster down. How many more were walking out there? They gathered around the old security station and re-watched the data logs Hayes recovered. Camera footage from weeks ago showed researchers fleeing as mutated subjects tore through the labs. One of them, a woman, escaped with 2 cases of vials into the surface tunnels. No record of her after that, Hayes said. But if she had those vials, she may have tried to sell them, Harper guessed. Or worse, use them. Greg finally spoke from the corner. So you're saying we didn't just survive hell? We've got another one coming? Eli nodded. Exactly. The group debated their next move. Stay in the lab and use its resources to hide? Risky. Or head out and warn the remaining survivor outposts. Harper made the decision for them. We go. This place is buried in secrets. But people need to know what's coming. If they keep fighting blind, they won't last. Eli looked at her, surprised. You sure? She smiled faintly. You're not the only one who was trained to survive. By noon, they packed what they could, shock rounds, suppressant samples, field gear. Eli and Noah led the front, Hayes monitored the rear, and Harper walked under her own power, supported by a reinforced cane. Greg was quiet now, finally understanding the stakes. They exited through a collapsed service tunnel, sealing the lab's door behind them. The world outside was gray, burned, and still full of the undead. But it was their world now. And they had a mission. By dusk, they reached a lookout ridge. In the distance, smoke rose from what used to be a town. Figures moved, too fast to be normal zombies. Eli raised his binoculars. Mutated ones. Already spreading. He turned to the group. We find the others. We rally survivors. We train them. Hayes nodded. And we prepare for war. Harper looked into the horizon. This isn't just about surviving anymore. Eli finished her sentence. It's about leading. He stepped forward, the wind tugging at his jacket, his rifle slung across his back. The soldier had survived. Now, the leader was born. The end. Would you like a short teaser or visual prompt for a sequel story?